Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ignite podcast. Today, we're delighted to have Gonzalo with us. I actually found Gonzalo through another startup that we were considering investing in that we originally took a pass on. They came back to us 6 months later, and their revenue had gone up 7x. And I was curious. I was like, "How did you grow your revenue 7x?" It's like, "Well, I've been working with these SaaS guys out of Spain." It's like, "Well, I got to meet these guys. I want to learn what they're doing." And so, Gonzalo, welcome to the podcast. Would love to get an intro from you for the audience, and then we can dive in.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, actually, we met this startup like I think it was 9 months ago, something like this. And what we did with them was something that we have been doing for the last 6 years or so, which is turning the B2B sales department of startups into into systems, into something like that works like a factory, like a production line, where you have a process for everything, a process for choosing the companies, a process for making the first touch, a process for scheduling a meeting, for closing the meeting. And so like you can then hire people that work as operators in this process, and you can scale things very, very quickly. And so we have been doing this in practice with, I think it's around 86 startups now, learning a lot of things. And now when these last times that we have been doing it, like things kick off very quickly, no? Because we already know like what things to touch.
I love that. And then, so walk us through how you got into this, because it's a very particular kind of consulting that you don't just fall out of in college. You don't go to college and say, "You know what? I really would like to help early stage companies grow their revenue." Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, and that's a pity that you don't have these kind of things, because I think like nowadays, if you see the university offerings, you see so many things with marketing, a marketing course here, marketing course there, landing pages, ads, and so on. But nobody teaches you sales, no? At least not that I know, or very few
Maybe
people.
in MBA programs, I've seen it. Yeah, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
It's kind of looked at as like this art.
exactly. It's seen as
Like
an
you're
art.
either good, you got it, or you're not. You're like the old sales dog. Coffee's for closers and what have you.
Exactly. And this was maybe before it was like this. And like you had like very few opportunities, and you had to be like really good with them and take people for lands and do this kind of stuff. But if you take a look at what companies that are growing nowadays, like or in the last years, like I know HubSpot, all these SaaS companies, not Salesforce, they didn't grow because they had one or two people that were really outgoing or good. They grew so much because they had a process, no? And
Yeah.
and processes are always something that can be somehow imitated, and this is something that we can learn. Like I've I always wanted to do something actually, like to build a company. I didn't know what to do, and the thing that I know is that I ended up studying mechanical engineering because I was very good at math and logical thinking and so on when I was young. And then in the end, I found out, okay, I know how to do all this stuff, but it doesn't like, I don't really enjoy it, because
Yeah.
those things like engineering and maths and so on, things that already have a result. Like you have to calculate things, but you don't change the end result. Like if you have a math problem, the result is this. It can take you longer or shorter, but this is it.
Mm.
And I liked like economics and businesses and companies, because there you can actually influence the result with the things you do. There is nothing that is written beforehand, no? Like also in sales, depending on how well you do it, you can close a sale, or you can not close it, no?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly true. And I empathize with learning about something and then going and doing it and not liking it, because I had the same experience
Yeah.
doing finance, and I really loved learning about it. It was fun to learn all the theories of finance and investing and corporate finance, accounting, all that stuff. And when I finally got to Wall Street and in practice, I was doing it 12 hours a day, eating my head over a spreadsheet. hour after hour, I was like, okay, this is not fun. It's not creative, like you said.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
something I see myself doing for the rest of my career.
And I think we are social animals, no? And we like develop the best when we are around people and exchanging ideas and so on. And many jobs today are a lot computer focused and not so much people focused. I knew I want to do something with people, so this is why I joined PCG, which in the beginning I didn't know what it was like. Strategic consultancy for companies.
But before you got to BCG, you actually worked at Siemens as an actual engineer,
Yeah.
and
This
that was the epiphany where you're like, well,
exactly.
you made it kind of to like, similar to me. Like I got to Wall Street, got to Boeing. Boeing, I washed out. That should have been the first clue. And then I got to Wall Street, and I was like, this okay, you know. uh, Now I know for sure that finance thing isn't for me because I tried corporate finance and then I tried like Wall Street finance. But you got all the way to Siemens as an R&D engineer, and that's
Mhm.
when you realized like,
Yeah, there. It can also have been a little bit of a coincidence, but I was with a group of people that, like, when we were eating for lunch, nobody said anything, and I was thinking,
that
okay, this is going to be my work life
sounds like the engineer's table.
yeah, for the next. I was there, the one who came from abroad, because I'm Spanish and I was in Germany, and I was like, okay, I don't even speak German so well, and I'm here the one who is like kind of making a little bit of conversation. And I was thinking like, oh, it's not my place here.
So how do you make that transition? It's always tough, right, to make a transition from
Mm,
industry to industry, and then function to function at the same time. That's like it's not even a pivot. It's like a two-footed hop. Tell
yeah,
us,
for
like
me,
how do you got to BCG?
yeah, I had a friend who had the same scholarship that I had, and he was also like studying mechanical engineering. And one day we met, and he told me, "Look, I'm joining a consultancy firm. It's BCG." And I said, "What is this? No idea what they do." Then I took a look. I said, "Okay, I still don't have any idea what they do, but it sounds appealing, and I like companies and so on. Let's see what it is." And I kind of jumped in without knowing very much, and I liked the whole interview process and everything. I have to say, like,
Yeah,
they they do these case studies, and you
right.
have to prepare for them and think logically and so on. So I
Yeah, they just
enjoyed.
want to see that you have a framework for how you frame problems and think through them. And as an engineer, you're like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah, it was fun, and then I thought, okay, I might find a work fun also. So I got into it without too much thinking.
And then yeah, so tell us about that. How long were you at BCG? What did you do, and how did you get into interested into SaaS
Yeah,
growth?
yeah, yeah. The thing is, I enjoyed BCG a lot, and but then I think everybody knows you work a lot of hours, you meet great people, but you have to make a decision for yourself. Okay, is this the life that I want for the next 10
Mhm.
years? Because sometimes you think, okay, when I get the next promotion, my life will be different. But
Mm,
I was seeing the
that's
people
corporate rat race thinking right there.
exactly.
If only I get that promotion, and then my life will be better. And then you get that promotion, and I experienced this. And you're like, oh, it's everything's like compounded worse. It's all 10 times more shit in the valley now.
Exactly. And I think the people, they were making much more money than I was, my bosses and
Oh
so
yeah,
on. Yeah, but I thought, okay, their life is the same. Like, it doesn't change how much you work. And for me, one of the things I care the most is having the freedom to make with my time whatever I want.
yeah.
And I didn't see these people had this freedom. And so I saw, okay, this is
No,
not
it's
the
like it's kind of inversely correlated to your seniority in a corporation. Like
yeah,
CEOs have no control on their time. You know,
yeah.
or C levels, they're just completely ruled by their calendar. Uh, probably 7 days a week. Frankly, they probably get a little bit of time off on Sunday, a little bit of time off on Saturday, but even like Sunday, Apple's famous for having like Sunday evening exec meetings.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, Steve Jobs would hold like a 4 hour exec meeting, like Sundays at 5 or 6, 7, something like that. And well, you got to imagine if you're an exec, you're Tim Cook going into like a jobs meeting on a Sunday night, you're probably prepping all freaking day on Sunday. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. This must be very hard. And I knew I didn't want this, so I was thinking, okay, how can I escape this? No, because it's like also you have a very good job, very
Yeah.
well paid, and very prestigious from the outside. Everybody thinking you are great.
So my
And
wife and I 20 years ago we coined this the triple 50, which is 50 hours a week, 50 weeks a year for 50 years. And we knew, I spent most of my 20s unemployed trying to figure out what I'd do if I won the lottery after I washed out of Wall Street. And we just kept saying, let's like, we got to avoid that triple 50. We got to avoid that triple 50. And we just kept like moving around the world, trying new things, starting businesses, little companies, little things on the side, trying to avoid, doing like real estate investing, like anything we could do to avoid the triple 50.
This was a little bit. This was also my thought, no. And I needed to skate. And there actually in many consultancy firms you can do 2 years 2 year long gap year, so like a pause in at work for in order to do a PhD or an MBA. And so I said, okay, this might be my way out, to have 2 years so that I can try out new things and see if something works for me. So I don't have to leave the job, and I can try out new things. So I took this PhD thing. I didn't really enjoy doing the PhD. It's not something for me. It's too theoretical and too statistical. I like to change things in the real world. And I mean, many PhDs might be very valuable in some sciences like medicine, biology, chemistry, whatever. But for me, in social sciences, in like economics and so on, which is what I did, I don't see the value in that. So I didn't really enjoy that, and it took the time to make other things. Like, for example, I was helping a teacher at university, and he was teaching entrepreneurship, and this is what linked me actually to sales, because there one day a guy came who was what scaled the sales department of a startup, and he started to draw in the blackboard every process that he had in the sales department of the company. And I was like seeing some kind of machine going out in the blackboard, like everything with arrows and with boxes and with processes. And my mind said like, oh, this is amazing. Like I had never seen sales like that. I thought what we were saying before, that sales was something like you either have it or you have not. But I always liked processes very much, and I always liked psychology very much. And when I saw this person doing these drawings with everything connected and everything so logical but still so psychologically rich, I thought, okay, this is what I have to do with my life. I had kind of an epiphany, that you don't have meaning in life, but there was one for me. So I was thinking, I have to make this work, and I have to work with this guy. So after the class, I told him, hey, look, I wrote him on LinkedIn. So because he went away very quickly, oh, I really liked your class. And told me like, oh, that's
So this is actually in grad school. So in grad school, someone came in and talked about what it sounds like sales operations. Like, here's how a funnel works, and here's
exactly. Yeah, it was sales operations from a very practical point of view, because he was actually telling what he had done, and you could tell like many things he had made them up himself, and was testing out things and so on. So I really enjoyed that. And told me like, okay, yeah, many people told me that they liked my class, and I was like, okay. So I used one technique that maybe the audience can use it also for some things. It has worked for me very well in life. Like, a friend of me told me this, like, don't tell people what you have in mind. Just tell them that you have an idea, and that if they want, you can meet and you will tell them. So this is what I did. And I told them, like, I have an idea how you can make your classes better. If you want, we can meet for coffee, and I tell you. I said, yes, let's do it. So we met one morning before work, and he came to the coffee.
I love that. Make it a mystery.
Yeah, make it a mystery.
I got an idea for how we can collaborate.
Exactly.
What? Tell me the idea. Like, I want to know.
Yeah, people just want to see what is behind, no? Because if you tell directly, maybe they're not interested. But like this, and like this, you get like the personal involvement.
So
So
you do you coach your startups to create a little mystery in their cold outreach, basically? Then
yeah, this is one of the most important things, especially with emails. Like with emails is not about telling what you do. Emails is a lot about making people curious. No, like, oh, maybe this can help. And if they're curious, they will want to talk to you, maybe over the phone. And then over the phone, you can make them still more curious and also get to know them and what they're doing and so on. And then you can go to a meeting. No, like prospecting, the first phase of sales is more about making curious, but making the right people curious. No, it's not about making everybody curious. Making
Mm,
curious the people that you want to sell to, that actually need your solution.
I love that. So let's go all the way back actually to so you go meet with this professor.
Yeah,
Tell me
and
about
there
that.
one fan. He was not a professor actually. He was
Yeah.
like he worked at a company. No, he was invited, and I told him, look, my idea that I told you, my idea was that I just want to work with you. I have no other idea. Like I just want to
uh,
work with you.
great.
I will do it for free. Look, I'm not stupid. I've been working at this place and at this place. I'm going to just sit next to you, see whatever you do, and try to help you whatever I can. And I think this is a value proposition like almost nobody can decline, no? And
Right.
in your early years, you get so much from it because you learn everything, no?
Yeah.
So I think this was one of the best moves I've made. And he
So
told me like,
you're in an MBA program. Which school? This is in Spain or in NCR or something like that, or
no, I didn't do any MBA.
oh, okay.
I did the PhD with a German university. So
Oh.
I was enrolled in the German university at the time, but I was living in Barcelona. So
Mm,
it was a little bit. I was traveling to Germany like every month for the PhD, but I was living in Barcelona, and
okay.
it was in Barcelona where I met this person.
And then how long did you work with this individual before you struck out on your own?
Yeah, it was around 2.5 years, and I was also lucky because I was given a lot of responsibility from the beginning.
Yeah.
Since the two founders of the company, we were doing also sales consulting in the company, and the two founders, they started another project which was a software. So they got more into the software, and they started to lead the sales consultancy from the early beginning. And this was also a very very good thing to have because I started to do everything on my own, to have a small team, to run the projects. And by the time when I started to do it on my own, I already knew everything that I should know. So sometimes people tell me you were very like, wow, to start your own company, this is very risky. You have to be very, I don't know if you say brave in English. No, it's not the word. But anyway, you have to take a lot of risk. And it was in my case, it wasn't like this because I already knew it was going to work.
You already knew.
Yeah, because I knew how to get the clients. I knew what to do in the project. I knew how to run the business, no, because I had been running the same business for 2.5 years.
Well, I mean, you can literally use your own tactics to go sell your consulting, right? So it's you're
Exactly,
dog fooding your own tactics, basically.
exactly.
I got an idea for how we can work together. I love that.
Yeah,
I'm going to use that.
this was a very good thing because at the same time that I was learning like how to do sales consulting and how to help other companies with sales, I was learning how to do the sales myself.
Yeah.
So I was like hitting two things with one ball. No?
So yeah. So you struck out like on your own, and um, let's talk about how you work with companies. Like, kind of give us the process, how many weeks it takes.
Yeah.
What are some common things that you go in and implement? What are the phases of that implementation? All that stuff.
Like we work with companies whenever normally when they get the first round, and then they are transitioning from founder-led sales to team-led sales,
Mm,
meaning like maybe the founders got the first 5 to 10 clients, and then they
They
are
raise a
happy.
pre-seed, they raise a 500K or a million or two, and now they're kind of like, oof, okay, now we need to sort of
It's
actually go sell
like,
this thing at scale. Yeah.
yeah, they are like, okay, I had some contacts in the industry, and maybe I went to an event, and also I got some referrals. But they are like, okay, now I've done everything that I have as a founder. I've used everything that I have as a founder, and I need to scale, and I don't know what to do. No? And this is where we come in, and we say, no worries, there is a process for all these things. No, and we're going to help you, and you don't need to do everything yourself. Also, right now, like you can have people doing the whole work, and this is going to be something that you can scale. So we come in at this point, and we start a project that takes around 3 to 4 months, and it has 3 phases. Like in the first phase, we have to design all the processes and put them in a sales playbook. A sales playbook is like the Bible for salespeople. Like everything they do can be because of one or of two reasons. One, because it's written in the sales playbook, and two, because they are experimenting with something new to see if it works better than what we have in the sales playbook. And if it works better, then we put it in the sales playbook, and everybody starts to work like this. So this is a very important piece, because in many sales organizations, like you have very good people that have very good tricks, but if they go, they just the tricks are in their heads. No, and we build organizations where everything that we learn stays in the company, stays in the system. So and this is the playbook. Then we do that in 3 weeks, more or less, this playbook, because we already have a lot of templates, a lot of things that we've worked on,
Right.
and we just kind of adapt it to every SaaS company that we start to work with.
What are some of those adaptations that you have to make? Is it kind of for, ACV, how big the ticket size is, or how many salespeople there are?
Yeah, not so much about how many salespeople, but yeah, the ticket size plays a role. Like, for example, there is a process for selecting the companies that we want to put in our sales machine. No? So the process is different for every client that you're targeting. Like if you're targeting big companies or small companies, and like you can do LinkedIn scrapping or many other things, and you have to adapt this to the companies. Like also, for example, the sequences that you use. Like when you're trying to make the first contact, normally you go through 3 channels. You go through LinkedIn, email, and telephone, and then you make several attempts. Maybe let's say, for example, 10 attempts, and then the spaces between these attempts and how long you persevere and everything. If you have just very few companies and you're interested in talking with very few buyer personas, then you might want to persevere a lot. If you have a lot of companies that you can talk to, then you might want to do small sequences and make them run very quickly through your machine. Also for the closing part, like what you do in the meetings, what you tell them, how you begin, and how you do the demo, everything. We just design it based on principles for every company. No?
Got it. So that's phase one. So 3 or 4 weeks in, you have everything written down in the playbook. You got all the processes defined. And now what's phase two?
Yeah, phase two is setting up the CRM. Like there, we normally use either HubSpot or Pipedrive, because those are the ones that are best suited for this size of company.
Which makes sense because HubSpot historically was a sales-led motion, right? And we'll get into that a little later. But versus like all the PLG stuff out there, HubSpot from the very beginning was all about generating leads and following those leads and running a sales process. So
Exactly.
HubSpot would make sense that it's works best.
Yeah, it's very well done.
But what about Pipedrive? I haven't worked with that tool.
Yeah, Pipedrive, it's very easy to use, but then when you grow a little further, it has some limitations. Like for me, HubSpot is in the sweet spot. Like it's easy to use, and you can still grow and don't have to change then your CRM in the middle. Like Salesforce, in my experience, I wouldn't recommend it for a startup, because it's too much customization. Like only if you're a big company, you need this. So for me, HubSpot is in the sweet spot. But Pipedrive, the sales reps they need to have each day the list of the 100 things they have to do, because they are very young people, and you have to control very much what they do,
Right.
and also tell them
You got
very
to control inputs to control outputs, basically.
exactly.
It's like, did you do the cold emails and the cold calls and the demos that you
Exactly.
need to be successful?
And we have there a very simple system, because it's like every day they get, according to the system, these 100 new tasks, and they have to empty the list before they can go home. No?
Mm.
So this is also very easy to manage, and they can do it. So we configure it so that we have this, and on the other hand, also so that the managers can see, okay, and who is doing better work, who is doing worse work, also which tactics are working for us, or which kind of companies are working for us, what kind of companies are not working so well. We do all the dashboards so that we have this information, and this we do in 1 week, more or less, so that we have normally 1 month of setup, and we use this month also to do the first hirings. There we also have help with the hirings of these first salespeople. Like, as I said, normally very young people who come fresh from university, who are very eager to do whatever you need to be successful in
They're
sales.
just happy to have a job.
Exactly.
I remember, I started in sales out of college. Well, after I washed out of Boeing, so I was just happy to have a job, work really hard.
Yeah, but also, like, if you do this process with more senior salespeople, you see they don't push so hard. Like,
Yeah.
they're already a little bit tired, no? But if you meet
They're kind of
these
set in their
people,
ways, right? They're kind of coasting a little bit. They kind of rest on their sales abilities, so to speak.
exactly. But these young people, and they have no stoppers. Like, if you tell them you have to do these 100 calls a day, then they just do it. No? And maybe they might have a little bit of resistance in the beginning, but it very soon passes away, because they are very used also to doing what they are told from university, from school. This is basically what schools do, not like they train people.
Yeah. They
doing
train
what
people to be automatons in a corporation, right?
exactly.
I mean, that's the history of our schooling system. It was designed in the 1800s to create administrative workers.
Yeah, which is not good, but for our purpose,
Cells and a spreadsheet.
but for these young salespeople, it's actually a good thing. They do what they are told, and so we can get these first meetings. No, and we do this in 1 week, and then we have this third phase of the project, which is 2 months up to 3 months, where we have very clear goals and clear metrics that we have to attain every week. If we get to these goals, then we can, let's say, it's like in school, no? If you are passing every subject, then you can go to the next year. But if not, you have to repeat, or with a video game, no? With Mario Bros, if you do it good, then you come to the next stage. If not, you have to repeat
You
the
move
same
up from the
stage.
50cc to the 100cc.
Exactly.
In
We
Mario
do it
Kart, I remember that. Yeah.
in these weeks, like every week.
I'm a gamer, if you can't tell. I have video game stuff all over back here, but yeah.
Yeah, you okay.
I get the video game analogy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the video game analogy is the best. Is the best one also. Like, you have to pass every stage, and if you don't, then you repeat it. And this is how we can make sure that in the end of the project, everything is working. Because if you passed every stage, like if you are doing all the processes right, if you're doing a lot of activity, a lot of calls, a lot of emails, if you do this activity in the right way, in the way that it has worked with the other 86 companies, then there's actually no chance that your sales machine is not working. It's impossible.
And so what happens next? Do they graduate, or like how many months does this take? And so we're at the end of our third phase. You're getting the metrics that you want. And it's like, thanks, on to the next client.
Exactly. Like, there we finish our project. Like, our goal is not to keep startups kind of trapped with us for a very long time. We want to build a system for them in-house that works very well and that scales. And so when we finish these 3 months, we already have a system that is able to scale. And so they can hire the next 2 or 3 salespeople and build the second production line of sales, and then the next 3, and so on.
So what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see as you get into a company and you start evaluating their sales process?
Yeah. So one of the first things, and founders are very they always like when I teach the process, I tell them, okay, one of the things you have to do is in order to make people trust you, you have to see people several times because we evolved in
Mm.
tribes and our brain works as if we were in a tribe.
Mm.
So if you see somebody once, it could be from another tribe, and an enemy. So you don't trust this person. But if, for example, in 10 days, you see the same person 3 times, there is actually no chance that this person
Mm.
is from your tribe. And something unconscious like clicks.
So it's not about like a one call close with sales in that theory. It's like, hey, let's do a demo and let's have a follow up meeting a week later to answer your questions.
Exactly.
And then let's do another meeting a week later
Exactly.
to discuss next steps.
Yeah.
And so now, by the time they've seen you 3 or 4 times, they're like, "Oh, okay, I like this guy or girl." You know,
Exactly.
like we're like friends now. We've been talking for like a month.
Yeah. And you have to also be very specific with the offering that you do for these next meetings. Like, for example, look, in the next meeting, I'm going to show you this and that. And do you want to see that? Yes, I would like to. Okay, in the next meeting, we're going to see how long it takes to implement the solution together, what we will need from your side, what I will give you from my side. We will see how much everything costs. And do you want to see this? Yes, I would love to. And they have to feel like in every time you meet, you're giving them something of value, because this is important. It's not like let's meet 3 times
Yeah,
and then 2 or 3 times I'm wasting your time because
right,
we already said everything. So I'm kind of splitting all the value that I have to give you in small pieces, and I'm giving to you in once at a time, so
right,
that we meet like 3 or 4 times. And when I meet founders, especially at the beginning, they tell me one of two things, like, okay, but people, like, I will not be able to meet with this very busy CEO 3 times because
right,
it took me such an effort to meet this person for half an hour. It's going to be impossible. And then the thing is, okay, then the problem that you're solving is not important enough. Mm, Solve a problem that is important enough for the person, or talk to the person for who this problem is important enough. Because if the problem is important enough, they will want to see you in 3 times to solve the problem.
right.
And so if we do it right, we will be able to meet people 2 3 times. And also another things that CEOs tell me a lot, like, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to be running so many meetings with the same company, with the same people. And my answer is like, okay, but you won't be the one doing it. Don't worry. You're doing it now just to test if the system works. But in 2 months, we're going to hire somebody that's going to start to do these meetings, and that's
Right.
going to come with you to the first meetings, and then this person is going to start to do it. So don't worry so much about your time. We are building a system. You're testing it. Just so
So your sweet spot is really like before the first sales hire, or maybe right after the first like account exec or SDR hire.
exactly,
Like
like,
now the founder's like thinking about scaling this and they don't know how.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Because normally we start the project just with the founders, and during the project they hire the first 2 or 3 SDRs, and the founders are doing the account executive part themselves normally in the beginning, like they're doing the meetings, so that we test the process of the meetings with the founders, and after 2 months more or less, then they hire the first account
Yeah.
executive. So this is how it normally works. And they are afraid of like doing many meetings, but then they see it converts so much better. And in sales, it's not about how efficient you are with your time. It's about how effective
Mm,
you are with the number of opportunities that you get. Because quite often you won't get a second chance with this company. No?
right. Yeah.
And it's not about, okay, I do the process in 2 hours or in 5 hours. It's about from 10 companies and I convert 7 or I convert 1. No?
Yeah. And what does typical effectiveness look like for like a B2B SaaS company? So for any
Mm,
founder out there listening and they're kind of evaluating their sales funnel right now,
yeah, yeah,
what are some good numbers and what are some bad numbers?
All right, let's start from the beginning, from prospecting. Like, if you're doing outbound, inbound, it's a little bit different, no? Because people come with different needs and so on. But let's say you're talking to people that don't know you, you're doing outbound. Normally, you're going to be able to talk with 60 or 70% of the companies that you target, right? To have a conversation with either the decision maker or with somebody in the team of the decision maker in 60, 70% of the
Wow,
cases.
that's pretty high. So out of 100, you reach out to 100 companies in your target list. You should have a first meeting with 60 of them eventually.
No, not a first meeting, but a first conversation.
Okay.
And then from this first conversation, around 25% come to a meeting.
Okay.
Meaning that you have a meeting in the end with...
Oh, so 60% respond to your outreach, and then 25% of those go to a meeting.
Exactly. Okay. Like a conversation with around 60%. And so from 100, you would have a meeting with 15, more or less.
Got it.
And then from this first meeting to closing, there's a lot of variability. But in outbound, SaaS sales is typically around 25%.
Yeah. So 1 out of 4. So about 4 clients out of 15.
Exactly.
So about 4 out of 100. So if you're anyone listening and you're a SaaS founder or a SaaS VP of sales and you have less than that, you should get in touch with Gonzalo.
Yeah. I would also say it's not about so much having more or having less, because numbers a little bit...
These are rules of thumb, like everybody's going to be a little different. And
a little tricky. The thing is, do you have a system for generating these clients every week?
Right.
Or do you kind of feel stuck? And do you have the feeling if you hire double so much salespeople in your company, you're going to double your sales? Or you think, okay, if I would hire double so much salespeople in my company, it would be a mess, or I wouldn't know how to deal with this because our processes are not so clear.
Right.
The thing is, do I have my sales department working like in a factory that I know I can build a second production line, a third production line, and everybody's going to know what to do?
So tell me about product-led growth. Like you go into a company, do you ever look at a potential client and you're like, no, this is definitely better as a PLG?
Product-led growth, like we don't...
you don't do that, right?
We don't do that.
Yeah.
Have
you ever looked at a company and you're like, you know what? You should probably do like another year or two of PLG before you hire sales? Or have you ever done that, or do you recommend that?
No. The thing is, and this is a little bit my opinion, no? But
right, yeah.
In order to do PLG, you have to have a very good product, and like a product that sells itself, more or less, no? That people use it, know how to use.
And it's like inherently viral in nature, like Slack or Jira or something like that.
Exactly, and there is like, and those softwares, even if they might look very simple, like Slack, there is a lot of work behind it to make it so simple. No, like they are very well designed products. So it takes a lot of money to build these products. And these products weren't like this in the beginning. They are like this now. And it's important. And they are doing product-led growth, but many years after they launched. I think in the beginning, for every B2B SaaS company, you have to do direct sales. Like you have to find a very specific problem in a niche, in a very defined target market.
Yeah, we know this persona, this kind of company is dealing with this kind of problem.
Exactly.
Guess what? We have a solution and we'll charge you monthly for it forever to solve that.
Yeah.
That's why B2B SaaS is the best.
maybe in the beginning, you don't even have a product. No, like you might do if you have a software or something, but in the background you might have people like
call that Wizard of Ozing in the US. Yeah. It's like we do this amazing analytical thing, but like in the background there's just some analyst doing it. Until the engineers build it.
Exactly. So this is how every company that succeeds in the beginning that I've seen is working. That like they are solving a very specific problem for a niche, and then later on, when you want to expand to the mass market and and you want to go to a broader audience. And so you can start to fine tune your product and make the onboarding very easy, and make it viral with some features so that you can start doing product-led growth. No? But it's a phase that comes later on.
So what is the next phase? So a company goes and implements what you're doing. They start growing. At what point do your strategies sort of start to deteriorate, if they do? And what's the next phase of the development that they need to watch out for and kind of be ready for? So they go implement this. They're killing it. They're growing. They're 7xing their revenue in 9 months or whatever.
Yeah.
And now they're getting into millions of ARR. The ACVs are getting bigger. They're going into enterprise. Like, what are some of the things that the successful SaaS companies need to watch out for, years down the line?
Yeah. One thing that I've seen is that any sales department, it's like has a lot of entropy. I would say, like, you build a sales system that works great, and if you leave people like running the sales system without paying too much attention, like it will deteriorate, and
Right.
people will start doing their own things, and so you have to
sales process entropy. I love that.
Yeah.
Watch out for sales process entropy, where you basically want to make it like McDonald's, where you can plug in anybody to be a fry cook, anybody to flip burgers, anybody can make it, a quarter pounder. I guess you don't call them that in Europe. McRoyale, a Big Mac. Anybody can make a Big Mac. And you want to kind of like make sure that you can keep plugging people in there with very little onboarding, basically.
Exactly.
Because it's so defined.
Exactly. This is one thing, but we have to keep in mind we are also selling like very complex products, no? Like, and we have to know the customer very well. It's not like everybody can do it, but we have to have very defined processes. And so, and coming to the analogy of McDonald's, because maybe like this we can understand it better.
That was my first job. That's why I always go back to McDonald's. It taught me a lot about how to run a thing. Like I ran the kitchen at 16, which I was the only teenager allowed to run the kitchen. And so I'd be back there running production, looking at how many cars we have, how many people are in line, how many cars in the drive-through, and try to figure out how many cheeseburgers we need to have like ready,
Yeah. And I think in McDonald's, you can learn a lot, not about how to do the job, but about how the job is configured, like how every role is so well configured that they fit with one another, no? And how the kitchen is organized, and when people come to see what you're doing, the things that they check, and
everybody has a role back in the kitchen, which is really interesting. It's like the assembly line that you described earlier on in the pod. It's like if somebody's cooking the meat, and somebody's doing the buns, and somebody's like replenishing, doing the sandwich making, and somebody does the wrapping, and they literally microwave it, and then somebody puts it like it's an assembly line of food.
Mm-hmm. So and in the beginning, maybe the founder of the first McDonald's was the one overseeing what people were doing in the kitchen, no? And overseeing that every process was done right. But when they began to grow, the person overseeing each restaurant started to be another one, no? And this is the point, to answer the question you made before, where we have to be very cautious, no? What is the person that I'm going to put to oversee my sales systems? And does this person think in a systematic way too? Is this person a process-oriented person? And also, this role is a little bit difficult because you have to find two things in a person that aren't so easy to find in the same person. And one is that they are like process-driven, and the other one is that they are kind of empathetic, and they have the feeling with the customer, like, okay, why aren't we closing this lead, for example, no? Like, because they are doing this and that. So you have to have both things quite often in the same person. This fine touch about sales, but also this process-oriented mind.
And sometimes they bifurcate that, right? So you have the charismatic head of sales role. He's the guy or gal that swings in there and closes the big deal. And then you have this like sales ops leader, right?
Yeah.
Revenue ops leader. Tell me about that.
Yeah, you can bifurcate that. But if you want to have, I would say the ideal CRO or the ideal leaders of your sales companies need to have both, because they need to really understand the client very well, and they need to be able to adapt the processes of the company in answer to the needs of the clients.
Yeah. So how do
So,
you plug into, so as you implement your, because I have a sales background and a marketing background, and I built Martech, so I've kind of been on both sides of that, and I built product too, lots of product. Tell me about how you work with marketing. So you step into this consulting role, and you're doing these 3-phase implementation of sales. How are you working with marketing?
yeah,
And I assume at this point it's founder-led marketing as well, right? There is no
yes,
head of marketing, but tell me about like when they hire somebody, or when you've worked with somebody that is running demand gen, or is a head of marketing, kind of a marketing
mhm,
person.
mhm. Like, it's quite easy for us in a sense, because basically we say, like, the sales machine, what we build, it works even if you don't have marketing. Like, even if there is nobody coming to your website, we will produce clients. But if there are leads coming to the website, then the machine is going to eat these leads
Yeah,
also.
yeah.
Um,
The
for
marketing
the
is
marketing,
an accelerant. That's what I normally say. Would you agree? It's,
yeah,
sales is sales core. You got to be able to sell your stuff. And no matter how good your marketing is, if you're not able to sell it, and if you're not able to build good products, it doesn't matter.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, you can produce a lot of leads. If you cannot close the leads to a contract,
Yeah.
then
I had this
it's not.
exact problem at a startup I was at, when I ran demand gen. I was generating tons of leads. I ran demand gen, was running like $1 million budget of ads every month, just burning through that VC money. And the head of sales, I remember we would butt heads, because she's like, "You're sending us crap leads," and I'm like, "I'm sending you tons of leads. You're just not prioritizing the right ones." So we would just get into that, because they didn't have a machine, right? They didn't have a machine to process the leads, right?
Exactly. Yes, sometimes of like clients ask us, okay, what is the first thing that we should do, sales or marketing? And for me, the answer is clear, but because you have to have sales before it makes sense to start with marketing.
Right.
And but then you have to also align with marketing somehow, no? Like, to make sure that the leads that marketing is bringing you are similar to the ones that you would go out for on your own. No,
Right.
this is
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
the, the,
Sales
the, the
qualified SQLs is what we would call those in marketing land.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you
Like
think, okay,
we have MQLs we think are good. What percentage of those does sales think are good? And then let's coordinate and rectify that.
exactly. And sometimes marketing also helps us a lot in terms of creating some documents that we can send over to the prospect. But there we have to be careful. For example, like, also one mistake I see a lot, when a customer asks you, send me your presentation or send me more information per email. And then companies sell this kind of sales tech that they have, like explaining in detail what their solution does, and why they are better, and so on and so on. And normally this backfires. Like, this doesn't lead to a meeting because you kill the curiosity. Like, people have the feeling they have seen everything about your company
Right.
already.
Yeah.
So why would they meet with you if they have everything in a
Yeah. It's
presentation?
like I've read all your marketing materials. It's not for me. Thanks.
Exactly. So they read it. They don't really understand it in most of the cases. Like, they
Yeah.
don't really understand what you can do for them, or not at a deep level. And think, okay, yeah, no, not too interesting. No.
Mm.
Instead of this, what you should do is, like, just send 2 or 3 success cases with similar companies, so that you have, okay, they started like this, they ended up like this. Like, for example, what we were telling, no, with this company you were talking to, like, they went from 100K to 700K, and you don't know what happened in the middle, no. And this is what sparks the curiosity in people. So whenever you have to send something, actually, not to be rude, but don't give everything. Just send them, okay, look, this company was right here. Now this company is right there. They are very, very similar to you because of this and because of that. And you want to know how they did this? Let's jump on a meeting, no?
Yeah. Let's switch to a rapid fire round. Does that sound good?
Yeah, very good.
So tell if you could be the CEO of any SaaS company for a day, which would it be and why?
The CEO, like, I think it might be one that I don't know yet. Because it would be a small one, but if it should be one that I know. I have to admit, I have HubSpot. I like it very well. I
Yeah,
like it
HubSpot.
very well the way they grew. For me, one of the best sales books ever is written by the former VP of sales of HubSpot,
Yeah.
is Mark Roberts. The book is called the uh, 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 the sales machine, the sales acceleration formula. It's called.
Okay.
Very entertaining book. And I think nowadays, when you talk to the people in working in HubSpot, when you grow, some things deteriorate, no? And the customer service sometimes is not so good as I think it
Yeah.
in the past. But anyway, very, very interesting history.
That's great. So Madrid versus Barcelona. Barcelona. Which city has a better startup ecosystem and why?
Mm, mm, I think if you are, I guess most of our audience is from the US or different places, you will be better, I think, in Barcelona because it has, like, regarding startups, it's more or less the same. Maybe Barcelona a little bit more, a little bit bigger of an ecosystem. But regarding life, like in Barcelona, you can meet much more people from everywhere. In Madrid is a very deep Spanish culture,
Right.
which is very good. Also, like I think to experience, if you have the chance to visit Madrid with one or two people that are from Madrid, and they take you to the bars and you go with their friends and so on, you will have a very, very, very good experience. But just to meet international people,
It's on my list. Taking the family to visit Gonzalo.
yeah, we could do that.
That'd be great. Tell us about a sales myth, one sales strategy commonly recommended that you find overrated.
One thing that people do very much that I see a lot of companies doing in early stage is to outsource the SDRs, like to hire some agency that gets the meetings. And like this is quite effortless. I would say, like, okay, I pay you, you give me meetings, but this is something that I've rarely seen working. Like it might make sense only in one scenario. And this is when you don't have product market fit. Let's say you're aiming at 3 different target markets and you don't know which is going to work best. Then you can hire a company and say, hey, look, shoot at this target market, at this one, and let's see where we get the most responses.
Yeah.
This might be a good idea. But once you already have product market fit and you want to scale, you have to do it internally because this is the only way you really learn about things, because you get to speak with your market. Otherwise, if somebody else does it, you get to speak with the ones that came to a meeting, but all the ones that didn't come to a meeting, you don't know why they're not coming.
Great. You've basically outsourced the core competency, which is sales.
Exactly.
And you should never do that. It's like outsourcing your product team.
Very, very good definition. I always see companies as 50% sales, 50% product. So basically, you're outsourcing 50% of your company. This is very risky, no?
And fundamentally, like if you think about a business, and I've said this before on the pod, is that you build things and you sell things. So you got to get good at both of those things. Like you want to outsource your accounting, okay, I get it. Like that makes sense. But fundamentally, as a SaaS company, you're building things and selling things. So you got to get good at both of those things.
Exactly. Yeah. And I understand that many founders that are also like engineers, very product led, they are a little bit afraid about sales because they don't understand it at the beginning, and it might be frightening. It's something that you don't understand.
It's alchemy to them, right? They're like, I don't know.
Yeah, but once you start seeing sales with our approach, like with this lens of everything is a process, like I've also seen in founders this fear begins to disappear, no, because they start to understand how things work, and they start to feel they can also do adjustments to this process and build it also themselves. the same way that they build a product.
Nice. Would you get a PhD again? Like if
I
you could
would
go
do
back, would you recommend people do it? It's a kind of a
no.
retrospective question. Yeah.
Like I wouldn't recommend people do it, at least in the field of economics. In other fields, I think the science is what brings our society forward, no? And PhDs are a way of doing science, like medicine and so on.
It prepares you to do primary research to discover new things about, the world and the universe.
Yes, and the output, even if it's a tiny thing, it might have a huge impact, no? Because it's for all of us, no? It's affecting all of us.
Yeah.
So I think it's very generous to people that are doing research. But I think in economics, it doesn't make any sense. In social sciences, it doesn't make sense. In natural sciences, yes.
Talk about the kind of European American startup experience. Given, I assume you've worked with American companies as well.
Some of them.
What's one lesson European startups can learn from their American counterparts?
I think American people, they execute faster things, and this is very, very important in a startup. Like you have more this fail fast mentality or this action bias. I think this is something that comes maybe in in culture,
right?
Like,
yeah.
for example,
Speed
might
matters.
yeah. Speed matters. A stupid example, just with buying things. I also see it when we're selling to the US compared to when we're selling in Europe. People in the US, they make the decision sometimes in the same day. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I buy it. How much is it? Let's try it out. And
let's start a pilot. Let's go 30 days. Let's go 90 days. Let's go. It's like, what's the next step?
Exactly. And this is a very, and people in Europe would be like, hey, I have to talk about it with my team, and let's see if it's a good idea for us. And people in the US, they have, in my opinion, they're the right mentality, because time is money, and they know it very well. And so they think, okay, it's not a big amount of money, so let's go for it. If it doesn't work, we can revert it, and nothing has happened. So the European mindset is more cautious.
And vice versa. What can the American startup ecosystem learn from Europe?
I think the culture in the startups might be warmer. Like you belong a little bit more in a family to a family in a European startup. I had this feeling. Like it's not so much. It's not only about work and about your output. Like the US, quite often startups is very output driven. If you get to your numbers, you stay. If you don't get to your numbers, then we look for somebody else. In European startups, people feel a little bit more safe because they have this also personal bonds or this feeling, okay, if it doesn't work out, I get a second chance. No, it doesn't to be so quick.
Love that. Well, Gonzalo, this was amazing. I know we're at time. Thank you so much for sitting down with us. I'm sure the audience and founders out there will learn a lot from listening to this episode. How should they get in touch with you?
Yes, they can look me in LinkedIn. My name is not so easy. Gonzalo de Lomana. I don't know if you can
put it
write
in the show notes. Yeah,
in the show notes or something. Or also they can go to our website, which is SaaS with twist, saasgrowth.eu from Europe, SaaS growth.eu, and there they can also write me.
Great. Thank you so much, Gonzalo. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much, Brian. It was a pleasure.
Likewise.